You're about to pack your carry-on bag. You're feeling confident. You've done this 100 times before. And then you get to the airport and everything goes sideways. Your bag gets flagged at the gate. You're forced to check it. You pay a surprise fee you were absolutely not prepared for, and your entire travel day is now thrown off. That scenario is becoming more and more common in 2026, and the reason is that the rules around carry-on luggage have shifted in ways that most travelers simply haven't heard about yet. So today, we're breaking down exactly what changed on January 1st, 2026, which airlines are doing what sizes are now being enforced, and most importantly, how you can make sure you never get caught off guard at the airport again. Let's start with the big picture, because before we get into the specific numbers and policies, it's important to understand why these changes are happening in the first place. Airlines have been dealing with carry-on chaos for years. Overhead bin space has always been a point of tension. You've seen it yourself. People boarding early just to secure bin space, flight attendants playing Tetris with bags that clearly don't fit, delays caused by trying to jam one more roller bag into a space that simply cannot accommodate it. That problem has only gotten worse as more airlines move to basic economy fares that don't include checked bags, which pushed even more passengers to bring larger and larger carry-ons onto the plane to avoid the checked bag fees. Airlines noticed, and they started pushing back. Now here's where it gets interesting and a little complicated. There is no single universal carry-on rule across all airlines. Every carrier sets its own size and weight limits, and that has always been the case. But what changed going into 2026 is that several major airlines updated and in some cases tightened their stated policies. And more importantly, they started actually enforcing those policies at the gate in ways they previously didn't bother to do. So even if your bag technically met the old rules, you might be running into problems now because the enforcement environment has changed dramatically. Let me give you the lay of the land right now. Most major U.S. carriers, including Delta, United, and American, have a carry-on size allowance that sits around 22 by 14 by 9 inches. That has been the traditional standard for a while, but the enforcement of that standard is what has tightened. Gate agents are now more frequently pulling out those metal sizing frames and asking passengers to demonstrate that their bag actually fits. If it doesn't drop into that frame without forcing it, the bag gets checked. Sometimes for a fee, sometimes not, depending on the airline and your fare class. But the days of just eyeballing it and waving people through are increasingly behind us. Southwest Airlines, which for years was famous for its passenger-friendly bag policies, has undergone significant changes. As you probably already know if you've been following travel news, Southwest was acquired and the new ownership has been restructuring the airline's entire fee model. The beloved 2 free checked bags policy went away, and with it came a whole recalibration of how Southwest handles the carry-on situation. Southwest now aligns much more closely with industry standard sizing and enforcement practices, which is a big deal for the millions of travelers who specifically chose Southwest for its baggage flexibility. On the international side, the variation becomes even more dramatic. Many budget carriers in Europe and elsewhere have incredibly strict policies. Ryanair and EasyJet, for example, have size limits that are significantly smaller than what U.S. travelers are used to. Ryanair's standard policy allows a small personal bag under the seat, but charges for any larger cabin bag. EasyJet has similar tiered bag policies. If you're booking international travel or even domestic flights on budget carriers, you need to check the specific airline's current policy before you even think about packing. Now let's talk about the carry-on size question that's been circulating online because there's been a lot of speculation and confusion about whether airlines are moving to a new standardized size in 2026. Here's the honest answer. There has been discussion within the aviation industry about creating a more consistent global standard for carry-on dimensions, and the International Air Transport Association, which is the main global airline trade group, has put forward recommendations in the past about ideal carry-on sizes. But as of right now, there is no single mandatory new size rule that every airline is legally required to follow. What you're seeing is more of a market-driven convergence, where many airlines are aligning around similar dimensions while simultaneously cracking down harder on bags that exceed those dimensions. The reason this matters is that bag manufacturers have actually started responding to airline policies in a way that's creating some confusion for consumers. You might go shopping for a new carry-on and see bags marketed as airline compliant or guaranteed carry-on. But compliant with which airline? The bag that fits perfectly in the United Sizer might get rejected by a European budget carrier. So when you're shopping for luggage, you need to be specific about which airlines you fly most frequently and verify against their exact published dimensions. Let me walk you through a practical checklist that you should run through before any trip. First, visit your airline's official website, not a third-party travel site, and look up the current carry-on size and weight limits. Do this even if you've flown that airline recently, because policies can and do change. Second, physically measure your bag when it's packed, not when it's empty. A soft-sided bag that measures 21 inches empty can easily measure 23 inches when you've stuffed it full. The sizer at the gate doesn't care what your bag measures when it's empty. Third, check whether your fare class includes carry-on bag rights. This has become a critical point because some basic economy fares on certain airlines only allow a personal item that fits under the seat in front of you. A rolling carry-on in the overhead bin might not be included at all with the cheapest ticket. You might have bought a fare thinking you were saving money only to discover you're paying a gate check fee that wipes out those savings entirely. Here's a psychological trap that a lot of travelers fall into. We tend to anchor on the last experience we had. You flew 6 months ago, your bag was fine, so your bag will be fine again. That mental shortcut is costing people real money and real stress right now. The enforcement environment has shifted. Airlines are training their gate staff differently. They're under pressure to manage cabin space more carefully. The assumption that what worked before will work again is increasingly unreliable. Let's talk about weight limits for a moment, because that's another layer that trips people up, especially on international flights. U.S. domestic carriers tend not to enforce weight limits on carry-ons with the same intensity that international carriers do. On many international flights, especially in economy class, there's a weight cap on your carry-on that can be as low as 7 kilograms, which is about 15 pounds. If you've packed a full roller bag with clothes and shoes and toiletries and your laptop and all your electronics, you might easily hit or exceed that limit. Weigh your bag before you get to the airport. A small luggage scale is one of the best travel investments you can make, and they cost almost nothing. Now let's talk about what actually happens when your bag fails the check at the gate. The outcome varies depending on the airline, the specific route, and honestly, the individual gate agent. In the best case scenario, you pay a gate check fee, your bag goes in the hold, and you retrieve it at baggage claim. In a more frustrating scenario, especially on a busy flight, you might face fees that are higher than what you would have paid to check the bag when you booked. Some airlines charge more for gate checking than for checking a bag at the counter during check-in. Knowing that in advance can motivate you to be proactive. If you're even slightly uncertain about whether your bag will pass, it might be worth checking it at the counter when you arrive rather than gambling at the gate. There's also the matter of the personal item, the smaller bag that goes under the seat in front of you. Most airlines allow both a carry-on and a personal item, but the personal item rules have also gotten more specific. Airlines are increasingly clear that a personal item should be a small backpack, a purse, a laptop bag, or a tote, not a mini duffel that's essentially a slightly compressed carry-on. The dimensions typically max out around 18 by 14 by 8 inches for a personal item, though again, this varies by carrier. Some travelers have been gaming the system by bringing an overstuffed personal item to compensate for a bag they know is too big. Gate agents are catching on to this too. Let me bring in some broader context about why all of this is happening now. The airline industry is in a very particular moment financially. Fuel costs, labor costs, and competitive pressure from budget carriers are squeezing revenue at every level. Ancillary fees, meaning fees for things that used to be considered part of the base service, have become a primary revenue engine for carriers. Bag fees collectively generate billions of dollars a year across the industry. When you understand that context, the tightening of carry-on enforcement makes complete sense. It's not just about bin space logistics. It's about revenue generation and making sure that passengers who want to bring certain bags are paying for that privilege rather than slipping through under lax enforcement. That might feel cynical, but knowing the motivation helps you navigate the system more intelligently. The airlines want enforcement to feel somewhat unpredictable so that more passengers default to paying for bag options rather than risking the gate check. The best defense you have is information and preparation. Here's something worth knowing about frequent flyer status and how it affects all of this. If you hold elite status with an airline, or if you have a co-branded credit card for that airline, your carry-on situation is often treated differently. Elite members and certain credit card holders may have additional bag allowances. They may not be subject to certain fees, or they may simply be treated with more latitude by gate agents. If you travel frequently and don't already have some form of loyalty relationship with your primary airline, it might be worth exploring what benefits different credit cards or programs offer in terms of baggage. Even a mid-tier co-branded card can sometimes save you more in bag fees per year than the annual fee costs. Let's pivot to something practical that goes beyond rules and into strategy. If you're a frequent traveler, or even if you're planning one major trip this year, the smartest thing you can do is invest in luggage that is specifically sized to fit current airline standards with a little margin to spare. The sweet spot for a carry-on that will work on most major US and international carriers is something that comfortably fits within 22 by 14 by 9 inches, including the wheels and handles, because some bags advertise their interior dimensions, and the external dimensions with hardware can push them over the limit. Read product descriptions carefully. Look at reviews from travelers who mention specific airline compliance, and, when in doubt, go slightly smaller rather than slightly larger. Packing cubes have become a genuine travel essential at this point, not just an organization tool. When you use packing cubes, you can compress your clothes more efficiently. You can tell at a glance whether your bag is overfull, and you can redistribute weight and volume more easily. A bag that's packed with packing cubes is more likely to slide into a sizer without fighting back because it holds a more consistent shape rather than ballooning at the sides. This is a genuinely practical tip that affects your carry-on compliance. For those of you who are traveling with families, the dynamics shift a bit. Each passenger typically has their own carry-on and personal item allowance, including children who have their own seat. That can be a useful thing to know if you're traveling with a child who won't actually be using their overhead bin space themselves. Knowing how to distribute your group's gear across multiple allowances efficiently can save you from having to check any bags at all. Let's address the carry-on question specifically for electronics and liquids, because those rules haven't changed, but people still get confused. The TSA 311 rule for liquids is still in effect. Containers of liquid must be 3.4 ounces or less. They must fit in a single clear quart-sized bag, and each passenger gets one such bag. Laptops and large electronics still need to be removed from bags and placed in a separate bin for screening at most U.S. airport checkpoints, though TSA pre-check lanes don't require you to remove electronics or liquids, which is a genuine time saver worth signing up for if you haven't already. The broader message here is that air travel in 2026 requires more intentional preparation than it used to. The era of just tossing things in a bag, showing up, and expecting everything to work out is genuinely over. But the flip side of that is that travelers who are informed and organized are actually better off than ever before because they can make decisions that save them real money and real stress. Do yourself a favor before your next trip. Spend 10 minutes on your airline's website looking up their exact carry-on policy, including dimensions, weight limits, and what's included with your specific fare class. Measure your packed bag, weigh your packed bag, or know what you're going to do if you need to check it. That 10 minutes of preparation can prevent a chaotic 20 minutes at the gate and potentially save you $50 to $100 in surprise fees. If you found this helpful, there's a lot more on this channel about navigating the modern travel landscape, from finding the best flight deals to packing smarter and understanding your rights as a passenger. Drop your biggest travel frustration in the comments, because there's a good chance it's something we can actually help you solve. Subscribe if you want to stay ahead of the changes that keep making travel more complicated than it needs to be. And we'll see you in the next one.